Hello, everybody, and welcome to another edition of the Bengal Tiger Podcast. I'm Matthew Brune. Joining me once again on this busy Friday morning, is Shea Dixon. Shea, how you holding up? We got the
Busy.
breaking news pod out, all the recruiting news. It's been a wild morning.
Golly, wild 24 hours. We had
Yeah,
DJ Chester, four-star offensive lineman, commit to LSU on Thursday. Then Colin Hurley commits to LSU on Friday and reclassifies into 2024. So it wasn't a week ago, a little more than a week ago, when people wondered if Julian Sayin, who obviously committed to Alabama, would be LSU's quarterback in 2024. It ends up being a wild card, a 2025 quarterback who reclassifies into 24. We have an emergency pod up on that.
yeah,
A million stories on the site right now. So if you want to celebrate the recruiting news on Colin Hurley, that's there. We'll have another updated visitor list for the weekend. Toviano, Ricks, you name them, they'll be in town this weekend for LSU Bama. We'll focus here on the game, but there's tons of recruiting stuff on the Bengal Tiger right now. So, and we'll be all weekend. And I don't think this will be the last commitment they get. So, should be a fun weekend.
yep. If you haven't already, check out the breaking news podcast. Like we said, Colin Hurley commits. It's on the site, or it's on the YouTube page. Bunch of stuff on the site. $1 for a year. Still running it on the Bengal Tiger on 3. So be sure to check that out. But here we are going to talk about the game. A huge game. LSU versus Alabama. A top 10 matchup. Once LSU was ranked 10th in the college football rankings, which was a surprise to me. I think you said it was a surprise to you as well. I mean, to go from 15th in the AP poll, 10th in the college football ranking, the highest of any two-loss team. I guess we could start there. I'll pull the rankings up. I know they're above Ole Miss. I believe they're
Well,
above Kansas State. A
people
bunch of other.
immediately said this was for Bama, right? This was for ESPN to say we have a top 10 matchup for number 10 LSU. Bama's obviously ranked number 6, or obviously ranked in the top 10. They're at number 6 with one
Yeah,
loss. And others are conspiracy theorists or people who just hate Bama. Will say, well, that's just to give Bama a top 10 win. They don't have any wins yet. If they want to get into the college football playoffs, they need a top 10 win. This gives them one if they win the game. All that aside, I'll say this: when they revealed 11 to 15 and LSU wasn't in it, I just thought they wouldn't be ranked. I was like, they must just. I mean, what the coach poll had them at 18. The highest they've ever been is 15, which is what
yeah,
they're at in the
15.
AP.
Mm-hmm.
And then they dropped 10. Watch
Yeah,
out.
over like UCLA, who's 7-1, Kansas State coming off a great performance. Utah, teams like that. Even Ole Miss, who's 8-1. Even though I'm okay with LSU being above Ole Miss, I don't have a problem with them being 10. But like you said, it sets up for the TVs and us, talking heads to be like, hey, this is a top 10 matchup. This is 6 versus 10. This is a game that, and even with all of that, it's a game that has significance in the SEC West, regardless of where they're ranked. If they were ranked 20 and 25, this is a game that will play a huge role in who wins the West. I mean, Ole Miss is still sitting there, but LSU controls its own destiny, and obviously Ole Miss and Bama will play later on in the year. So, with all that being said, I think if we start to look ahead at this game, I tried to preview as much of it as I can on the site, as far as the general overlook of Alabama, the LSU defense against Alabama's offense, and then Alabama's pass rush. I did stories on all three of those, so check those out. I think we can start from an overall Bama perspective. They obviously lose to Tennessee. They struggle with A&M with Milroe at quarterback. They struggled early in the season with Texas, who at times looked like the better team before they drove down and kicked the field goal. I mean, where are you at with this Alabama team coming into this one?
I think that Bryce Young's the best player in college football. I think that
Agree.
he is the best quarterback in college football. I think any of this narrative that whomever, CJ Stroud, Hendon Hooker's obviously playing
He's better
great.
than Hendon Hooker, but yes.
Will Levis is still getting thrown around. I saw in mock drafts this week as number one. I've always felt this. Bryce Young was phenomenal in high school. He's been phenomenal since he started at Bama. He's been banged up this year. But all you got to do is listen to how Brian Kelly talked on Monday. Listen to how he talked on the radio show. Listen to how he talked to us on Thursday when we talked to him yesterday, Matty B. It's very clear that he thinks Bryce Young's the best player they'll play this year. So we can talk all day about how far the offense has come and Jaden Daniels and this team, but the point remains the best player they will have played this year and will play this year is Bryce Young, and he's the quarterback. So defensively, I'm sure Matt House hasn't gotten much sleep this week. We'll see how they attack this Bama team. I mean, they can. We'll get into some of this. They can run the hell out of the football. Jahmyr Gibbs is he was a top 3 running back at a high school center at Georgia Tech and moved over to Bama, and he's been great. People will say it's not their normal receiving core. Even a Bama fan would agree with that, but they still have some guys that can make plays, and certainly Bryce Young can get the ball in their hands. Man, outside of that, like the 2 things I think of, Matty B, and we'll get into the pod, obviously, with some more thoughts, but A, Bryce Young's a real deal. B, and I've seen Bama play every game this year, and I've watched a lot of Bama football over the years. Honestly, I just enjoy watching a lot of the good players who are well coached, so I like watching them play. This is the most uncharacteristic shoot yourself in the foot Bama team that I've seen. It is, it's like you'd have to go back almost a decade to a team that penalties galore, mistakes galore, just not executing in certain spots where you expect them normally to. So is this your normal Bama? No, but that's a pretty high bar to set. I still think this is one of the 4 best teams in college football. I'd have them right there with Tennessee, and obviously they are right there with Tennessee. They played them down to the wire. They probably could have won that game had they made their field goal, but Georgia, Ohio State, I think they're right in there with them. This is a tall task.
Yeah, like you said, it's for all the shortcomings Alabama has. We knew coming into the season, Bryce Young and Will Anderson were on this team, and we knew that they are 2 of the best players in college football. 2 of maybe the 5 best players in college football, if you want, wherever you want to put Will Anderson in that class. And that's still the case, even with a receiving core that is good, not great. You don't have the numerous first round draft picks at receiver and Waddle and all these guys, but there's still a solid receiving core, right? There's still someone that LSU, it might be one of the best. Off the top of my head, thinking about the best receiving cores that they faced, Tennessee didn't have the receiver who I'm forgetting his name, but they didn't have him. They had Brew McCoy and Hyatt, though, so that's talented. But still, a lot of it's on Bryce Young's shoulders this year, and it feels like that more so than last year, to where it's a lot of it's Bryce Young and Jahmyr Gibbs making plays, making something out of nothing, and that's what we saw time after time. I think in the Texas game, that was good. There was a good example of that. Where Bryce Young, I remember the throw in the red zone where he's running to the left, turns around, flips his hip, and slings it in for a touchdown. It's like that's what Bryce Young can do. And so while I think LSU is going to be prepared, and I think that the defensive line is going to have a really good day, I think this is the best defensive line and the best pass rush Alabama has seen this year. Even if LSU can get to Bryce Young, there's a difference between getting to Bryce Young and stopping Bryce Young. Like, you have to get him to the ground. You have to make him very, very uncomfortable. And even when he's uncomfortable, he's still really good. So that's kind of where you have to start when you analyze this game, is how do you stop Bryce Young? And as much as I want to take some solace in Texas and Texas A&M, well, he didn't play against A&M, but Texas doing a decent job, which I wrote about on the site. This is an Alabama team that I think is much better than they were in week 2 of the season against Texas, obviously, but B, Bryce Young is just he's really good on the bright lights, and he's played Georgia last year. He's played great defenses before. LSU's gonna have to be really, really sharp.
Would you guess, you do a lot of film study, all that, but sometimes we're kind of in it and we don't step back and really look at the stats. You know how many passing touchdowns LSU's given up this year?
Oh gosh, how many passes?
And it's under 10.
Yeah, I was gonna say
8.
New Mexico 8. Yeah, Tennessee kind of punched it in a lot. Because Ole Miss, yeah.
Now, granted, a chunk of those, I guess, would be in that mix of games during the month of October. But
yeah,
Bryce Young, I read this stat. Bryce Young, 22 starts at Bama. He's never not thrown a touchdown pass. This is an LSU defense that doesn't give up a lot of touchdown passes. So, not that we think they're going to completely shut out Bryce Young, but that'll be something to watch. I also think too, because you were just talking about like shutting down Bryce Young or not shutting down Bryce Young. How do they
Yeah,
kind
slow him
of
down.
slow him down? The one thing I think is interesting about this year's Bama team, they can always run the football, and Gibbs does that for them this year. But last year, like everything was, even in a year where people considered it like a down year for receivers at Bama, Jameson Williams and Mechie both ultimately get drafted, and those two did everything.
Yeah.
This year looks a lot more like LSU's roster does in terms, or stats do in terms of how much he's spreading the ball around. Like a lot of different guys are getting involved. Their receiver stats sort of look similar with a lot of guys in the 200 to 300, 400 yard range, a few touchdowns, but not that one guy on each squad that's just so much better than everybody else. And we thought that would be Butte. Obviously, Neighbors probably has the best stats to this point, I would
Yes.
think. I don't think Butte's taken him over,
No.
but
Yeah, you're right.
I like LSU's receivers more than I like Bama's.
Hmm.
But there's not a lot of places on the field where I would say that I like LSU more than I like what Bama has. So it'll be.
Yeah.
This is just again, Vegas, Matty B, we know this. You'll have the Friday lines out here later today. Vegas has been 13.5 point favorites or underdogs for LSU. That's a big line. LSU hadn't faced anything like that this year. So this is a team with talent all over. I do think, though, and I'm curious your thoughts because you actually wrote a story about this, or at least a piece of this. When you look at the edge rushers in this game, Will Anderson's best in America. Dallas Turner plays opposite of him. Brian Branch is a guy, he's a DB, but I think he's got more tackles for loss, or he's up there in terms of negative play production as
hmm
much as anyone on Bama's team. Flip it over, you've got BJ Ojolari, you've got Harold Perkins. We've seen some other guys get in the backfield and make some plays along the defensive line. I feel like that position, or at least edge rushers, are bringing pressure in this game is going to be paramount to both slowing down Daniels and Bryce Young because for whatever strengths and weaknesses this team have, both of them's massive strengths are edge rushers.
Yeah. And that's the thing. If we want to look at it, like the positives of LSU coming into this is obviously Jaden Daniels hitting his stride the past 2 games, right? We've talked about that at length over the past how many podcasts, how many weeks, where Jaden Daniels looks extremely comfortable. My concern is that with Will Anderson and Dallas Turner, and they, occasionally bring Henry Toto on blitzes, they do a really good job with pressuring the quarterback, right? If you watched like the A&M game to a degree, basically any game that wasn't Tennessee, they did a good job, I think, of getting to the quarterback. So how will Jaden Daniels react when he's getting pressured by Anderson and Turner on a regular basis? Will the mental clock in his head go off quicker? Will he drop his eyes? Will he revert back to what he was against Florida State? I think from a coaching staff perspective, they've coached him up so well. I'm not overly concerned about him having a, atrocious game or something, but could be a situation where after the second or third read, maybe at a time where against Ole Miss, where you have that time to sit back there and pat the ball a couple times and go from there. In this situation, after your second read, maybe he drops his eyes and looks to run. It's something that I think is very possible in this game to where Jay Daniels been playing so well that we're like, he's figured it out. And then this defensive line just comes in and says, boom, we're hitting you, and boom, we're moving you off the pocket in 2 seconds. Like it's going to be interesting, and I think the true freshman tackles have their work cut out for them on the outside.
That's the thing. If we look back and LSU loses this game by 14 points or more, and you're saying, man, why not think if any LSU fans get their hopes up and they're like, well, why didn't I see this coming? You'll look back and probably say, guys, we were starting 2 true freshmen at offensive tackle, albeit very good ones. But they are true freshmen at offensive tackle going through their first year against 2 of the nation's best edge rushers. We were facing Bama, one of the most talented teams. We're facing the best quarterback in college football in Bryce Young, in my opinion. A ground game with Gibbs, a defense that does have now some players playing really well in the secondary. So I do see kind of all those things. I'm trying to take a step back and say, look, this is still an LSU team that starts a walk-on, a former walk-on at running back. Josh Williams has been very good, but he's not Jahmyr Gibbs. There's
Mm-hmm.
2 true freshmen at offensive tackles. They're without Garrett Dellinger, though the O-line played well in his absence in the past couple of games. Better. Not being gone. I just think they're finally hitting a little bit of a stride. Um, I don't know. I still don't. I don't want to get into any fool's gold here with the Ole
Yeah.
Miss win, because the argument was that Ole Miss was the fool's gold. It was Ole Miss isn't as good as number 7 in the country and 7-0. A team like
Yep.
LSU, who's really just trying to figure things out still, could beat a team like that, and they did handedly. They crushed them. So as we go through this and as we're talking out loud, I'm trying to remind myself here of LSU is still LSU in the first month. Maddie B was certainly a team. It didn't look like a team. It
Yeah.
was a collection of new coaches, transfer quarterback, a ton of transfers starting, freshmen starting all over. It didn't look like a team. And Brian Kelly got them better in the month of October. And now the plan is to have them playing better in November. That's great. That's progression. I think more so than anything, they've kind of figured themselves out. And whether that means you're good enough to beat Bama, I don't know about that, but it's certainly good enough to beat Ole Miss. Certainly good enough to beat some talented teams you've played so far. Tennessee was on another level. Just is what it is this year. But I think even since Tennessee, they've proven that they've learned some things. They've grown a bit. I'm just really curious to see, because this is the bye week that we're off of, and watching this LSU football take the team. LSU football team take the field again. Is there worry there, Maddie? Is that it's like, man, can you pick up where you left off? Because that'd be
Yeah.
great. Because every week you saw them fixing things and getting better. Now it's a bit of a lull where you've had 2 weeks to kind of, recharge and move forward.
Yeah. And you don't get Dellinger back. I mean, that's the big thing there. To where the offensive line is, it'll be fine. I thought they've actually done pretty well the past 2 games on the offensive line, but you played Florida and Ole Miss, so it's like, and Ole Miss is kind of a 3 down front where they're not bringing a ton of different pressures, or different looks and stuff like that for the most part. So that's it's going to determine the game. I think LSU needs to run the ball as well. So whether that's John Emery, Josh Williams, whoever it is, they need to get a little bit of a run game going, or else, even if you do fall behind a touchdown early, you cannot turn this into the Tennessee game.
What about Alabama native Armani Goodwin?
Yeah, Armani Goodwin. Yeah, I keep forgetting he's healed and 110%
Well, and
now.
it sounds like John Emery is going to be out there after he had tweaked something right
Yeah,
before the Ole Miss game and just didn't play. And then he was kind of listed as not day to day, but they were just going to monitor him. But the only Major Burns will be back.
yes,
John Emery, it sounds like he'll be back. Jack Bash, it sounds like he'll be back. So the only notable injury that Kelly talked about this week of guys that aren't already like out for the year, like Mason Smith, which boy, it'd be nice to have him in a game like this.
yeah,
But would be Dellinger, who obviously is a starter on the O line. But again, he had a broken hand that he had to have a minor surgery on, and then he tweaked his knee and missed some time. So when we heard from Kelly on Thursday, it sounds like he had just watched Dellinger in practice and ruled him out and said, look, he's not there yet, and no need to go put him out there. Because really, even earlier in the week, Matty B, he was saying what you were saying, that they've played well in the O-line the past couple of games against competition that's not this, but they wanted Dellinger, if possible, to at least rotate in and,
yeah,
kind of get his feet back under him. And now it looks like that, even though he did say on the radio show that he's day to day or a game time decision, it does not sound like they're going to try to trot Dellinger out there just to put him in a spot where it might get even worse. And then he's out for other games where you need him.
yeah. And not for nothing, the Alabama interior defensive line is pretty good too, pretty solid as well. Do we want to get into breakout players and stuff like that? I'm trying to think if I missed anything here. I think obviously the LSU receivers need to be able to get separation, because that's another thing. The Alabama secondary, I don't think, is as good as they've had at times in previous years. Now Eli Ricks coming back for them, or not coming back, but finally getting playing time, getting on the field after basically seeing the bench the first 6 games of the year. Him stepping up in the Mississippi State game and getting a starting role there was an interesting development. So we'll see how much he plays and how much of an impact he has. You have Kool-Aid McKinstry back there. You got guys like Brian Branch, like you mentioned. So it's a good secondary. I wouldn't say it's one of the best secondaries that they've had by any stretch. And I think LSU's receivers, if they play to their potential, if you get Keishon Butte, if you get Malik Neighbors and Jeray Jenkins, whoever else, all those guys playing at their best, not dropping passes, being crisp on their routes, getting separation. I think that the LSU receiving core is good enough, has enough talent to, I mean, make plays in this game and to give LSU a chance.
We'll see. Where are we shifting to now? What's up
Uh,
for we usually make some bold predictions here. What are we rocking
do you
with?
want? Yeah, I was gonna say, do you want to do thing to watch or
Okay, thing to watch first.
yeah, thing to watch?
You want to go first, or you want me to?
Sure, I'll go first. You sound like you need me to go first here.
I mean, I'm putting it through my head right now, Matty B, of where
Well,
I could possibly go with
yeah,
this.
I wanna try to be uh different. I'm gonna watch. Well, I say I'm gonna try to be different, but this is a pretty big talking point. I just want to see Harold Perkins. I want to see Harold Perkins, and I'm not saying he's going to be the breakout player. I'm not picking him to be a breakout player. I just want to see how they use him. I want to see how, if they use that package that they used against Ole Miss, can they have him and Ojulari basically as rover attacking linebackers there, run a 3-3-5 in a sense to where they can move Harold Perkins around. How are the linebackers going to move, Greg Penn in there, Micah Baskerville? I think Micah Baskerville is going to be a huge part of this game. But Harold Perkins, primarily, how they use him and how much they use him. And do we see maybe less Ollie Gay? Do we see less Savion Jones? I don't know the answer to that, but that's what I'm looking forward to seeing.
All right, I am gonna take this from a more kind of 50,000-foot view here type
Okay,
thing.
okay.
This doesn't necessarily have to do with play calls or anything of that nature, somebody playing well. But, and I don't know if anyone will agree with me out there that's listening, but I believe this to be the case. I've been around this team and program here in person in Baton Rouge since '04, and I can't remember a time where it felt like LSU had less pressure on them in a Bama game than this one. And it's funny to say that because LSU is carrying a number 10 ranking now, and maybe more importantly, that if they win this game and can beat Arkansas and A&M, they would go to Atlanta and play for an SEC championship, which nobody would have thought a possibility in the offseason. Like, this is a team, and I guess maybe a part of it of no pressure is this is a team that was thought to win between 6 and 7 games, and they're
Mm-hmm.
6-2 in top 10. And even if you lose this game, you can beat Arkansas, UAB, and A&M. And if you do, you likely be favored in all those games. If you do, you're 9-3, and you go to a good bowl and have a chance to win double-digit games, like 10 wins in Brian Kelly's first season is something nobody predicted without being a homer about it. And
Yeah.
I just think we've seen them come together now at the right time as the season goes on, which is on coaching, which is on the players, all of that. They seem to be on the same page, but just pressure wise, they don't seem to be having any this week. What I'm now watching is, do they go out there and play like that? And we've already seen them. They've fallen behind in like almost every game this year and have been able to claw themselves back into all but one of them, Tennessee. But in the majority of the others, minus Florida State, they crawled back in it and then won and took the lead and sometimes ran away with it. So they've faced adversity. Like, if they get down in this game, I don't think that's going to rattle them. But more so than anything, I'd like to see them play with kind of a carefree feel. I think Jane Daniels does a great job of that every game. He doesn't ever look rattled, whether he's like they're playing well or not. But if they can all just kind of be on that same page of go out and if you just focus on LSU, if you focus on execution, if you focus on kind of what got you into this position, anyways, which certainly wasn't thinking about Alabama or beating them for what the first time in Baton Rouge since like 2010, long time.
Yeah.
Um,
Uh,
I just don't sense I don't sense that pressure from them this week. Does that mean they're going to win? No, but I think it helps. I think I'll put it this way, Matty B. I've seen a lot of LSU teams go through Bama week, the 2 weeks, because both teams are always on bye before it. I've seen them go through those 2 weeks and come out on game day, and you can just tell that the moment is in their heads. And I don't really get the sense that that team kind of is approaching it this way.
Yeah, I agree. We touched on that a little bit on Monday, but I think you summed it up really well there. In that, they've already had their heart broken against Florida State. They already got blown out against Tennessee. They've come back from numerous double-digit deficits. It's like, all right, this is a team that wasn't expected to do much and has seen everything pretty much at this point in the year. So I'm interested to see how that plays out. All right, some breakout players here, Shea.
Okay, I'll let you go first so that you can. I think I did go first last time. And
One on each
everybody
side of
can
the
sit
ball.
around and see if I'm going to my Kayshawn well or not,
Yeah.
because I think I've hit on 0 Kayshawn games. If he's played well, I went away from him. If I don't, then he
I
balls.
think I'll go. I think Will Campbell's gonna have a good day. I think Will Campbell will hold his own out there.
Whoa!
See,
And a good game is what?
a good game is because honestly, I'm kind of worried that they're just gonna put Will Anderson over on Emory Jones' side, and he'll have Dallas Turner. And Dallas Turner is no slouch though, so if he can hold up against Dallas Turner, that allows them to chip Will Anderson a lot more. Because look, you're not gonna be able to double team both of them. You're not gonna be able to chip both of them most of the time. I would think you're gonna have to have some one-on-one situations. If Will Anderson can hold his own against Dallas Turner, and obviously whenever he does have to go against Will Anderson, if that makes life so much easier on this offense. This offense will be in a much better position if Will Campbell can do that. That's asking a lot, I know, but Will Campbell has been really, really solid this year. I'm not gonna say he's been great, but he's been really, really solid this year. So Will Campbell, this is the game when we go back and watch the film, because obviously in real time it's like offensive line play. We can see that when the bad happens more than the good. When we go back and look at, I think Will Campbell will have had a really good day.
I think I'm gonna go with a tandem here. I've ridden the Butte plane plenty. I like the Harold Perkins watch. I think all those guys, Ojolari, Wingo, Roy, everybody's gonna have a big game if you're
Yeah.
gonna pull something off like this. I think Josh Williams is gonna have a big game. Obviously, Jaden. I don't want to pick the quarterback though. I'm gonna go with two guys who I guess depending on how they come out on the first play of the game may not even start. I will go Brian Thomas and Dre Jenkins. I think those two could be wild cards in a game like this. Like we've seen Dre. Dre is big touchdown in a big moment. He was the one that caught the no time left at Florida State in the back of the end
Yeah.
zone to at least give them a chance to kick that extra point. He's caught the game
A&M.
winner against A&M last year. Pretty much his time expired more or less. So I think he's a big game guy. And Brian Thomas played well in the Bama game a year ago, and he's already developed further. His game looks a lot better. I think he's just so dynamic. I mean, whether it's a deep ball guy, we've seen him in the open field. When he gets going, he's tough to get a hand on. He's just a long strider. Those two, I think, because I think that Keyshawn Butte and Malik Neighbors will have Bama's full attention. But there comes a point where you can't put the best players you got on everybody. And I think that gives Brian Thomas and Dre Jenkins a chance in this one.
I agree. Defensively, I'm gonna say Mekhi Garner's been really good this year. I'm gonna go secondary though, and I'm gonna say if Major Burns is back and 100%, which we is expected to play, all that stuff, but you never know all that. But I think Major Burns, as far as the communication aspect goes, I think he's gonna play a huge role in this secondary, because one thing um, I asked during the play, I asked a couple of the players during the player availability was in the Alabama game when Ashford got out of the pocket, there were a couple explosive plays on there. How important has that been in trying to fix that to where you're going against Bryce Young, who will extend plays and wait for guys to get open and find ways to make throws? And it was Mekhi Garner who said, we have to stay plastered to them. We have to really um, stay disciplined in that regard. So I think the communication and the discipline of the secondary. So I'll go with a guy like Major Burns if we're picking a specific player.
I like that. Look, I think Harold Perkins can make some real differences in this game, like for real. I think that it could be an Ole Miss type feel where he comes up with some sacks or tackle for loss at really timely moments where it's like, damn, glad we got that guy.
Yeah.
I'm looking at a guy, though, for my pick on defense that I don't think should ever come off the field and won't until he needs a breather. It's B.J. Ojolari. And he's their best player on defense. At this point, without Mason Smith, B.J. Ojolari is the best player they have. Bama knows that. They'll try to put help on him, do anything they can. But he is a guy that is putting himself in a position to potentially be a first-round draft pick. I mean, I just don't, even as number 18, a captain, everyone loves him, great guy. I just don't think we talk about him enough. And I just think offense is where people often talk, and they've got a new staff, so people are talking about Kelly, but BJ Ojolari is the real deal. And I think in a game like this one, if you really want to get after Bryce Young, if you really want to try to make some plays against Alabama and keep them off schedule in a sense as they're kind of going down in distance, for me, Ojulari could have a massive game from Ojulari would go a long way towards keeping this one close.
Yeah. We are going to give our
what are we doing?
predictions on the site, but I think as far as 13.5 points is a lot. I think that much I will say.
And the over-under is 56.5.
56.5? Yeah, that I gotta see. For the final lines, I was looking at maybe the game under, the first half under, maybe some. I was trying to look around.
So you're talking like a 32-24, or I guess that wouldn't be right. If you wanted to say LSU covered, but was around the over/under, it'd be in that range.
Yeah, something like that. But I do know LSU's team total is at 20.5, which seemed kind of.
Do you think they score more than 20 points?
That's what Vegas is asking me too, and that's what I'm trying to figure out. As much as I want to believe the LSU offense has turned a corner and is clicking on all cylinders, I am just concerned about blocking them. And Henry To'oTo'o, who we've barely talked about here, is a great linebacker for Alabama. So it's not like they only have pass rush. They got some guys in the back end that are fast. They got some linebackers that are good. I'd put them right around 20 points. I mean, if they can get to 24 or so, look, it's going to be one. This game is going to be won from LSU's defense. I think that's it. I do not think that they can win a shootout. I don't think they can win this game if Alabama hits 35 points.
I don't think they want to be in a shootout.
I don't think they win this game if Alabama scores. Even 31 would be tough, but I mean, in theory, maybe you can get a late field goal or something to tie it. You can send to overtime or something, but 35 points to me, if Bama hits that, LSU is not winning this game. So it's going to have to be a really good defense performance. That's what I'm putting all my eyeballs are on. LSU's defense slowing down this Alabama offense just enough.
I think that Bama wins by double digits, and I think that doesn't mean anything. That doesn't change my mind about what LSU is and what they're going to be. I think that they could lose this game to a team that's better than they are and a team that's well coached, a team that has played well when they come to Tiger Stadium, all these things. If they lose by double digits and then they can go out and play LSU football that they've been playing recently, getting better and better, not making as many mistakes, being more assertive in certain spots, aggressive in certain spots, they can beat Arkansas on the road at 11 a.m. They can beat A&M, who's really struggling this year in a big way compared to what we thought they'd be, and certainly UAB. If you looked up at the end of the year and you said they lost the opener to Florida State, which they should have won, no doubt. If they played that game over today, LSU would beat Florida State.
Yes.
And they should have kicked an extra point and gone to overtime and seen what happened. If your other two losses are to Bama and Tennessee and this year's Tennessee team, okay, and you beat everybody else on the schedule, that's pretty damn impressive for me. So I don't think LSU is going to shock the world here. I mean, could they? Of course. I'd love it for the fans. Make for an easy message board to moderate all week. Yes. But my expectation is that it'll be close, I guess, for a while maybe, but that Bama is able to kind of distance themselves a little bit and then keep that distance and win by double digits. But hey, that's why they play the games.
Yes.
I'm no expert.
I agree with you. I think I'm right around 10 or so for the differential, whatever I predict the final score to be. But somewhere in my head it's like 21-31, something like that.
Yeah.
So I'm probably leaning under here, but it's a tough game. It's a tough game to handicap. It's a tough game to
I don't think that Bama will beat them as bad as Tennessee beat them. I don't think it'll just be like, oh God, they got waxed. I think that LSU will keep it closer than that.
Not unless if they fumble the opening kick return and they allow a
punt. We almost made the whole podcast without talking about special teams, and then you did it in the 11th hour there.
If they do not shoot themselves in the foot on special teams or otherwise, just on it can be offense as well or whatever. If they just play the disciplined football that we expect them to play, then they would have been close against Tennessee, and they will be close against Alabama.
LSU's offense doesn't turn it over. No. So, I think one thing to watch will be Bama. Can they clean up a lot of mistakes that they've made penalty-wise that's really kept them closer in games where they shouldn't have been? So I think
Yeah.
that's what
So
I'm
that
watching. But I'm excited. Hey, look, we're going to it. Maybe us picking double digit, that's kind of just how we feel, is that's part of this no pressure thing. I don't think anybody rationally is sitting around saying, I'm very confident LSU beats Bama. And here's X, Y, and Z. But it's possible.
and if you are out there confident, then I think the LSU money line is like
Put
plus
some money on
400.
it. Yeah,
I
bro.
think
You
it's
make a lot of
I think
money.
it's plus 400. So throw down
Go ahead
10
and
and
make some money
150.
off
So
it with
there
all
you
those
go.
confident takes you got.
But yeah, that's all we have. Again, final lines will be out this afternoon. Wanted to dedicate the morning to Colin Hurley's commitment, which was huge. Again, check all that out on the site. But we will have final lines out. We will have our predictions out as a staff, and yeah, the board is going crazy. I mean, the board has been incredibly active over the past week, especially. I mean, since we've gotten here, it's been active, but the past week, from being Bama game to the commitments. It's been awesome. So we appreciate all of y'all for interacting there and giving us feedback for, good or bad, whatever y'all think. And yeah, that's all we got. So we appreciate y'all for joining us. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Like the video, share it, comment, all that good stuff. If you're listening on the audio side, leave us a 5-star rating and review wherever you are listening. Spotify, Apple, all that good stuff. Send it to a friend if you enjoyed it, and listen to it maybe on your way to the game, because I anticipate there will be plenty of traffic. I'll have to leave a good 2 hours early, or 3 hours early probably.
Yeah, earlier than that.
Yeah, 3 hours early probably for that. So yeah, we appreciate y'all for joining us, and we'll talk to y'all later.